Alright, here we are with video 2 of the Unreal for Unity developers tutorials. We are going to move rapidly in this video and just go over Epic Games Launcher, which you should see on my screen right now, and hopefully you downloaded, and the Unreal Editor. Now, I could literally spend hours talking about the Unreal Editor. There is so much in there, but for our purposes, we want to learn to ignore most of Unreal. Unreal is a beast of an engine, and we really don't need all that. I mean, if we're only going to be jumping in here and having fun and prototyping, there's no reason to get bogged down in the literally hundreds of settings and whatnot available. So let's zoom through this. I'm going to go quick. So know that a whole bunch of stuff is not going to be explained, and we'll explain what needs to be explained as we actually do things starting in the next one. Now, you could follow along with me on this one if you want, but I'm just going to really be jumping in here and trying to equate Unreal terminology for Unity terminology so that all you Unity developers can kind of have an idea of what's going on. Game engines are, fundamentally similar, even though they're vastly different, if that makes any sense whatsoever. All right, so this is the Epic Games Launcher. If you downloaded Unreal, this is what you actually got. So there's a few different tabs over here. You can ignore all this junk up here. This is for gamers as opposed to developers. Community section, you'll find release notes and community spotlights and live streams, and I should actually say something about that now. So Unreal does a weekly live stream, usually 1 to 2 hours long. Really good stuff. They stream on Twitch, and then it's available on YouTube afterward. Usually some great stuff to be learned there, especially shortly after or before a new release, where they go over some of the new features. Okay, so the Learn tab, you can figure out what that is, just like Unity's Learn tab. Tons of different tutorials in here, and where this really shines is that there's piles of samples, and you can download all of these and dissect them. Marketplace, we don't need to say any more about that. It's the asset store for Unreal. And library, and this is where you'll actually be spending some time with the engine. Up here, where you see engine versions, you'll probably only be seeing one or maybe even none. If you see 0 engines, make sure you click the download button so that you have an engine to work with. You'll see in mine, I have 4.15.3 and 4.16.0. This is going to be the first diversion from what you're used to with Unity. When you install an engine with Unity, a new version, you just pick the folder it goes into, and that's it. You're on your own managing which version of Unity you launch and which version of Unity each of your projects is using. That's as far as they go. Unreal provides proper engine management here. So you can actually launch different versions of the engine right from here. You could set different versions as current. You can remove them. Really great options for developers to have. Below that, we have your projects. So this is any of the projects you've opened up recently, and it actually tells you which version you last opened them with. And then down below, we have the vault. So any of the things that you downloaded from the Learn tab are going to appear here. And you may have downloaded projects, or you may have downloaded assets. So as an example of an asset, the animation starter pack from Epic has just a bunch of different animations. And you can just come down here and you click the Add to Project button, and you choose the project you want to add it to. For something like a full project, which would be the Elemental demo, for example, you get a Create Project button, which will create a fresh project. And then you can open it up and dive in there and play around. Okay, let's go ahead and launch 4.16. This is the latest version as of the time of recording. We'll basically just always be using the latest version of the engine here. There's no point in using anything in the past when we're going through these tutorials to keep them as much up to date as possible. So here's our project pane. This probably looks fairly similar to what Unity has. We have the different projects we have, and anything that's from an older version like this will list the version here, and it'll be kind of grayed out, and you can actually convert it right here if you wanted to. But jump in the new project section, because we're just going to create a dummy project to play around with. So big diversion here from Unity. The new project window lets you It gives you quite a few different options here to play with. I mean, you have lots of different templates. Unity has checkboxes for services to include, and Unreal has a pile of different actual useful templates. It's a huge difference right there. We also have a toggle here between Blueprint and C++. We're not going to be dealing with C++ here, so it doesn't really matter what you choose. If we created a Blueprint project and wanted to add C++ to it later, we surely could. So let's just jump in here. We'll use the third person template. Toggles down here are for mobile or desktop, and then quality settings, and with and without starter content. I'm going to choose no starter content here just because this is a dummy project and we're just diving in and breaking it up. Starter content is probably about 700 to 750 megs or so of content, where with different meshes and audio files and materials, stuff that can help you get a jump start if you want to gray box your levels real quick and have something a little bit prettier to look at than cubes and whatnot. But for our purposes, we don't really actually need that, and it's a lot quicker to start up a project without having to copy 700 megs of stuff. All right, so here we are. We are in the editor. So first, Epic offers its apologies for the absolutely hideous interface and terrible icons that look like they were stolen from Windows ME or something. They definitely did not keep up with the times when they picked these icons, and probably just never changed them. But we'll let that slide. It's a game engine. It's a tool, so it doesn't necessarily have to be beautiful. So it can be a little hard on the eyes when you have to look at these icons for too long. Okay, so a lot of things you're looking at right now are probably going to be pretty similar to what you see in Unity. Some things will be a little bit different. So let's just make a round robin around the screen here. We'll start with the content browser down here. So if we expand this here, you get your folder list, and this probably straight away looks a lot like Unity's because it's super similar. There's only so much you can do with a content browser. You can navigate through your different folders here, and then you get to see your different content here. One really neat thing about this, and I'm just going to choose the top here, is we have filters. And these are just like Unity's filters as well, with a couple minor differences. So let me just choose blueprints, and let's say materials and textures. And you'll see we have a whole pile of stuff down here. And you'll notice that we got a whole bunch of different little colors here. So everything's color coded. So you can actually just go in here, and if you wanted to set all these filters, and you can toggle them on and off at any time, and you can see that it hides or shows the content. And there's a little bit too much for you to tell what's happening. But okay, so now there's only a few. I can turn the blueprint class on and off, and you'll see only the blueprint classes. So yeah, filters, really handy. Let's reset these. Okay, so content browser works just like you would imagine it would. Same as Unity. You have stuff in here. Template for it's a static mesh, which is equivalent to a mesh in Unity. And let's just say I wanted to add that to the scene. You could just drag it in, and holy crap, that's huge. Okay, so let's undo that. All right, so that's the content browser. Last time I'm going to say it, but we'll go into more detail on all these things later. There are tons of things I'm skipping over, and we really don't need to know everything anyway. We only need to know a little bit. So working our way over here, we have a details panel. This is the Unity inspector, essentially. So I'm just going to choose something like, for example, this bit of text, which is a text render actor. So when we select it, you can see we have some pretty familiar looking things here. We have our normal location, rotation, scale transform, and we have materials and then different properties. So yeah, not much different than Unity. You've seen all this before. One thing that differs a little bit from Unity, again, great little touch here that I love, is you'll see this little button here, and anytime you change something from the default value, so for example, I'm going to go ahead and just make this scale a little bit different. Once I change it, you can see you get this revert to default button, and it lets you know what the default was. So it's really great, quick visual indicator for when something isn't the default value. And another thing that differs a little bit here, in order for me to show you this, I'm going to select something a little more complicated than a text render. I chose the third person character over here, so this guy. So you can see third person character, when I drag it up and down, it's got stuff attached to it. We'll just call it stuff for now. camera and a red line, whatever the hell that is, but not important at the moment. So this is cool. So you look in here, and in Unity, when we're looking at the inspector, each of these different sections would be a component. That's not the same as in Unreal. In Unreal, these are our components. So you can see right here, I have the third person character selected. So that would be essentially like the root object. That's the game object in Unity terminology. In Unreal terminology, it's an actor. So actor and game object are pretty similar in that they're the root object that can be dragged into a scene. So if we look down below here, we're going to see capsule component. We've all seen these before in Unity tons of times. So the capsule component has a mesh underneath it. Now that's a little odd. That's different. So with Unreal Engine, we can nest components on a single game object. So you don't have to deal with nesting game objects like you do in Unity. You know, for example, if you were composing a character, it's a skeletal mesh in Unity. It essentially has a different game object for every piece of the skeleton. So every arm bone has a few different pieces, then down to the fingers, which have 5 different game objects, and all those are different game objects. With Unreal, you don't need to do that though. Unreal lets you have your components nested, and the way it does this is that the actor itself doesn't actually have a transform component. So in Unity, I'm sure you've typed this a million times, gameObject.transform. That's getting the component, the transform component on the game object, and there can be one. With Unreal, components can have a transform. So this mesh has its own transform, and you can see its values here. So when I click on Camera Boom, you can see it has its own transform, and these are totally different values. These are the relative values from the parent component, which is the capsule component. So that's big difference from Unity and something really neat. So straight away, a plain old normal actor, which again, game object in Unity, can act almost prefab like straight away without even having with nothing special because of these nested components. Okay, enough on that. We see how this works. You have the add component button, works just like Unity. You can go in here and either choose a component that exists, or you can create one on the fly. So remember, we chose a Blueprint project, but you can see we can still create C++. And moving our way around, we are done with the inspector, aka the details.